So welcome everybody to our event, the SBH Young Professionals and Propel event, Learn to Earn, Gain the Skills for Success. My name is Vicki Amzaleg. I am the Program Manager for SBH Young Professionals. We have an amazing evening tonight. I'm so excited. Really, this event was put together by a team of very strong women who volunteered their time to be here. So we hope that everybody gains something, learns something, and goes home feeling inspired and empowered. I'd like to just take a quick minute to tell you a little bit more about our organization and what we do. I know mostly everybody is familiar with SBH and all their services and programs, but our career division in particular, which is overseen by Rita Shabbat, our director. Over there, woo! We have a team of 10 job placement professionals who work with job seekers one-on-one to help them find positions. We have a database of thousands of employers from the community who we work with very closely. We also have other services where we have a resume writer, we have interview prep, we have job skills training for computer programs like Microsoft Office and Excel. We place over 350 people in jobs a year. We have a young professionals program, and through the program we have career mentoring, one-on-one mentoring with volunteers, professional volunteers from our community, who will meet with you one-on-one and really give you the lay of the land of what the career looks like. In addition, we have an internship program for college students, and we also have a lot of networking events and career events just like this to help people learn and grow. We work very closely with a lot of organizations like Propel to really help women in our community understand the full gamut of what resources are there for them. When we thought of collaborating on an event, we really wanted to come up with something that we felt would be beneficial and important for everyone to really learn. We identified a gap. We saw that there was a need for skills development. You know, while Propel does an amazing job with their trainings and we do the placement, we wanted people to understand what are those skills, what is it that you need, that extra oomph to get you there. Things that are not necessarily taught in the classroom, but things that are something you learn along the way throughout your career. Things like leadership and your professionalism, your professional etiquette and confidence and self-worth. So we identified these 6 women here who are here tonight to really inspire you and show you what that looks like throughout their career paths. So we really hope that everybody, whether you're looking for a job, you have a job, you're looking to start your own business, or you're just here to learn, we really hope that everybody here gains something and goes home feeling like they've developed more skills and that they can do this themselves. So I'd like to now just introduce you quickly to our partner organizations, the Propel. And I wanted to just say that this is our second time collaborating with Propel, and I have to say we have a really good time. We really do. They're so impressive, they're so professional, they're fun, and we just love them. So please welcome Executive Director of Propel, Elisa Shams.
Thank you so much. Gosh, you took the words right out of my mouth. First of all, I love what I do. Nothing makes me happier than looking around and seeing a room full of really amazing women. And each and every one of you are amazing. I mean, I know it's a little intimidating. We have a judge, we have someone who developed her own cosmetic line, an attorney, and so on and so forth. But honestly, what we learn at Propel is that each and every one of us as women has something amazing to offer. And that's what Propel is here for, to inspire and encourage each of you to find your professional voice. And you know, for different women, that takes different paths. Some people know what they want to do. They come and they speak to our career coach, Ellen Adis. Ellen, stand up, say hi to this great room of women. Ellen really helps direct you. Either she pulls it out of you and figures out what you're good at, or if you come to her with an idea, she'll figure out where to place you. And lo and behold, you find yourself in a profession that makes a lot of sense to balance your home life and gain some income for your family, gives you a lot of personal self-esteem. And that's what Propel does. We're here for mentorship, we're here for guidance, we're here for career advice, we're here for networking. Basically anything you might imagine comes and centers around the professional world. That's what we do for women. And like I said, I love what I do. You know, when you hear the stories of women who have sort of come, and some of them are even desperate in the sense that they really need the income to help support their families. And lo and behold, after coming through the Propel program, their whole lives are changed. You know what it is like to meet people on the street and they say, "You changed my life." And I mean changed my life for the better. And we all then act as role models for the next generation because we are living in a modern world. And yes, we can do it all. We can still be homemakers, good wives, good mothers, good parents. And we could also have a profession. And I think, you know, after tonight, I know I've been inspired over the last few weeks speaking to each of these amazing women to hear about how they sort of found their career paths. And they're going to be here tonight to help you discover your own. And then we really hope that if you're sort of in the process of trying to figure it out, that you don't hesitate to call us, to call SPH. You have resources in this community. You should be very thankful that you're part of this community because it's a community that thinks about its members and its constituents. And I couldn't have said it better. You know, I was kind of joking with Vicky on our little Instagram chat that I have like a big crush on her because she's so amazing. There's a lot of amazing women out there in the career world, in our community, and take advantage tonight. Walk the room tonight. Ask as many questions as you want. Take advantage of the breakout sessions. And we're so thrilled that you're here to be part of our world. And yeah, great. And so I guess I also have the responsibility of introducing our first amazing keynote speaker. I just want to say, Helene, first of all, shout out to your dad, who I told you I know. Very brave man coming here. But, you know, the secret has to be safe, Eddie. I don't know if we could let you out tonight. I mean, you're going to hear a lot unveiled over here. So, Helene, before I tell everybody your amazing resume, I just want to say something, a funny story. A couple years ago, I went into Blue Mercury in Deal, in the Grove. And, you know, I'm always kind of looking around, you know, always looking to make myself look a little better. And somebody from the Surratt makeup counter grabbed me. I had never heard of the brand. And she's like, I have the most amazing products for you. The next thing I know, I walked out with 2 eyeshadows, 2 lipsticks. And then I loved them so much that I went to another Blue Mercury in the city and they didn't have it. And I was like really bummed out. And then when we started this event, I'm like, what? Oh my God. I ruffled through my makeup bag and I'm like, I love these products. I even put them on this morning. I didn't get a chance to refresh because I'm like coming from the city since 8 o'clock in the morning, but amazing, amazing products. And I have no doubt, having gotten to speak with you on the phone and to meet you here, that what you do is incredible. And just a little bit about Helene Tamir. She's a fashion and beauty entrepreneur. That means that she has developed her own brand and business, and you can learn a lot from that. She has over 20 years of experience. She started her career in the corporate sales at Theory, which is a clothing brand, and she then moved to Swedish fashion brand J. Lindenberg, and then to an Italian-owned Miss 60. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of those brands. Not bad. In 2003, she opened the award-winning Cantaloupe Boutiques with 4 locations on Manhattan's Upper East Side. And in 2013, she co-founded Surratt Beauty, which is a luxury makeup artist brand with 200 points of sale worldwide. She led the brand as the CEO until 2018 and currently leads brand development and strategy for Surratt. Helene has been featured in numerous fashion and beauty magazines, including Vogue, and she lives in New Jersey. She came in through the snowstorm, I guess, right? Thank you. She lives in New Jersey with her husband and her 4 children. So, Helene, thank you so much for joining us today.
Warning you, it's long. Okay. It's amazing to be here to stand in front of a room full of women from our community who are here because they're interested in business. As a much younger person, I could never imagine that a room like this would exist because historically that has not been our legacy. While we are each uniquely successful as the CEOs of our families and lives, our focus has always been to uphold our more traditional roles as caretakers, mothers, wives, and daughters. We cook incredible meals, uphold the moral and religious values of our families, and are the literal glue that holds our sacred traditions and loved ones together. In doing all of these things, we try to find time for self-care, we exercise, we eat well, and in general, we look amazing, but we're just now leaning into ourselves and understanding what other valuable contributions we have to offer to our society, our families, and ourselves. So I have always chosen to work. For me, working has always been very natural, as I see everything in the world as a potential business. If I go into a store, I'm tallying up how much I think they're bringing in sales that day. If I see a new product, I wonder how it was made and how many are being sold worldwide. It never even occurred to me that my love of business or curiosity about how things are created could ever impede on my ability to be a wife or a mother. These two things were not mutually exclusive. Yet historically, there's been a perception in our community that you were either a homemaker or rarely a working woman. The thinking is generally that if you wanted to work, you don't like to cook or to do things that are more maternal. I'm here to say that I love it all, and I'm capable of doing it all. Is it all done perfectly all the time? Not at all. But overall, I do it incredibly well. Having a career is as integral to my well-being as a fitness routine or a spiritual practice. When we create value for ourselves outside of our homes, it allows us to bring that spark into our households and can allow us to be better wives and mothers for our families. I'm not here to convince anyone to go out into the workplace. I'm only here to inspire you if you already have the passion or urge to do something new. There is no true work-life balance, but I do know that there is a beautiful harmony that we can create for ourselves and our families when we recognize our innate talents and bring them forth into the world. Whatever the reason that has brought you here tonight, the key is that we are together and that there is now a place that we can help each other navigate. Just as we've stood together as a community that has upheld a rich history of sacred traditions, we can stand together now and make it possible to hold these values very tightly, but widen our scope of what we're truly capable of. So, I sell lipstick. Sounds simplistic. I'm clearly underselling what I do, but I'm the co-founder of Surat Beauty, a luxury makeup artist brand, all made in Japan, highly focused on innovation and customization, and sold in some of the top luxury retail stores worldwide. But how did I get there, and how did the business go from concept to reality? I don't have a Harvard MBA. I didn't even graduate college. I'm often in rooms with highly educated executives who like to do the "where did you go to school" exchange, and I pray that they don't ask me. They would never understand why someone my age didn't go to college, and I would never care to explain to them that it was just not a priority when I was growing up in the community that I'm from. I grew up in a house that we would say had a typical point of view on girls and education. You could go if you wanted to, but you certainly didn't have to. And if you did, you were definitely not leaving town. So I applied and I was accepted everywhere that I wanted to go, and BU is where I had my heart set. And I believe his response was, "You think I'm letting my daughter go to Boston? You're crazy." And I could probably say the same thing today. So that was that. So I went to Monmouth for a year and I took classes in the city, studied film and whatever I was doing, I don't know. And then one day a friend of mine called me and she said that her cousin worked in sales at Theory. And did I know anyone that might be interested in interviewing for assistant positions? So I volunteered. I went to the interview and I got the job. And I remember that after the interview, I met with the owner, Andrew Rosen, who asked me what I wanted to ultimately do. And I'm not sure what compelled me to say it, but I blurted out, "I'm going to own my own company one day." He looked at me like, "Yeah, okay." So I was 21 and that's where I started. Through serendipitous circumstance, someone had left abruptly and I was promoted after 2 weeks to an account executive position, heading up specialty stores for the Northeast and the Southwest. So I handled 400 independent stores. Theory was an intense learning experience. I commuted each day from New Jersey, and if you arrived by 8:30 a.m., you were already late. I think my salary basically paid for my commute. It wasn't much, but this was my education. So I did whatever was asked of me. I stayed late and came early. I loved the customers, the clothing. I learned about delivery dates and production timing. We shipped 10 deliveries a year. We did every trade show. I edited the collections for my accounts and helped them swap out products between one another when one was selling something and the other wasn't. I flew to Texas to train the entire contemporary department at Saks, and I re-merchandised the sales floor at Bergdorf often. Sometimes I'd run into friends who were shopping there, who I'm sure were wondering, what is Helene Michon doing here? It was not the norm. From there, I was recruited to a Swedish company called J. Lindeberg. They tripled my salary, and they asked me to be the sales director for the US for the women's collections. And there I learned to work with a smaller team. I worked closely with PR and learned about brand positioning and building. I traveled to Sweden to meet the other international counterparts and understand how sales differed across the globe. It was around that time that I met my husband. After J. Lindbergh, I went back to a bigger company, Miss 60, and did a similar job. The brand had a broader distribution because we sold so much denim, and while I was dating my husband, we would talk about the accounts that I would see on a daily basis and how much volume they were doing in just jeans. It became very clear that the Upper East Side had enormous potential. Scoop, Big Drop, Intermix were all key players at the time. So one day he said, you know, you're writing all the orders and selecting the products for the stores. You seem to know what they want. Let's open a store together. And that's how we started Cantaloupe. In 2003, we opened the first Cantaloupe store on Lexington and 74th Street. My soon-to-be husband, Ronnie, financed it and had found the locations and orchestrated the build-outs while I curated the collections. Unknown but incredibly cool designers from around the world. I managed the staff, the visual merchandising, the PR, and the buy. I was also the face of Cantaloupe. When we opened the first store, Vogue did a story on me in the opening, and at the shoot, they sent hair and makeup. And the makeup artist that they sent was the protege to the late Kevin Aucoin. His name was Troy Surratt. We hit it off right away and stayed in touch for some time. And then life happened. Ronnie and I got married, opened another store. Had a baby, opened another store. Had another baby, opened another store. And then we had 4 stores in total. Cantaloupe won every magazine shopping award that existed in New York at the time. Best of this and best of that, and it was a great time. We would venture into some product development. I had an eye for things that were marketable, so I would see a great selling beach pant, and with my father's guidance, we would produce it overseas in multiple colors and sell them in the stores, as well as wholesale it to other retailers. And we did this with tops from St. Bart's and jeans from Italy, and so on. Then in 2008, we started to feel the economic downturn. It was becoming increasingly difficult to turn stock as quickly as we did before. Store rents were at an all-time high, and it was time for a change. I had a young family and some downtime, so I figured I would settle down for a bit. So we closed the stores one by one, moved out of the city, and settled into life in New Jersey. I thought this would be a good time to slow things down and just be a mom, and I did that, but I was also presented with the opportunity to work on some special projects alongside my father, whose company had added a number of beauty products to their roster of fitness products and housewares. And I worked fairly remotely and learned how to develop products, work with factories on formulations, packaging, and then ultimately marketing, writing and shooting commercials and infomercials. It was during this time working on beauty that I reconnected with Troy, the makeup artist that I had met several years prior. He was now well into his career as a celebrity makeup artist and had consulted for a global brand. Through our catching up, it became apparent that more than a makeup artist, he was a beauty product junkie. He had confided in me that he had spent the last 10 years traveling to and from Japan, learning all about the cosmetics business there, and his dream was to develop a full-color cosmetics brand, all made in Japan. We decided to focus on this dream project together. Troy was clear that he was purely the creative and needed someone to run the business, and asked if I would come on as CEO. I had just given birth to my 3rd child and was wrapping up my term as PTA president, so clearly I had time. I said yes. This was where it all truly began, and we set to work on Surratt. He developed the formulas and shades. I started building the business, editing the collection, creating SKUs, pricing, and sourcing packaging. We needed branding, logos, and some creative. Troy wanted to use Fabian Baron, who developed the NARS logos. That would be over $100,000 for a logo. Not happening. So coincidentally, we met a young guy who had left Fabian Baron's agency and did freelance work for us at a fraction of the price. We finally had a creative deck, no physical samples, but Barney's got wind that we were working on something and called us in. They loved what we showed them, a full color collection in innovative packaging. It was modern and fresh, and no color brands had launched for 4 years prior, and the market was starved for newness. It was divine timing, as I like to say. We were to be exclusive in the US in all of their stores for the first year, launching in October 2013. That gave us 9 months to create the entire collection, produce the stock, and essentially build a brand. It was very exciting, although we needed more than just a little startup money to really launch the brand. We needed at least $1 million to get going. We sat at Fred's after our Barney's meeting and looked at each other and I said, okay, so we'll go get $1 million. And that's what I did. So after the meeting with Barney's, I quickly realized that beauty was like operating wholesale and retail at the same time. So this was definitely in my wheelhouse based on my experience. We had to develop all of the goods in Japan, sell them into the stores, and also manage the staff in the stores. The business plan and the pitch deck needed to reflect all of this. The next step was sort of dual path. We had to take a leap of faith and kick off the manufacturing, but also didn't have the money we needed locked in. I went full steam ahead building the foundation of the business, but also going out to raise capital. We ran all over New York City or wherever we had to go to meet investors. So why does anyone want to invest in a beauty brand? Usually because of the exit strategy. Ideally, the margins are fantastic and the exit multiples make it worthwhile. So what does that mean? It means that you build a 3 to 5 year plan. You show how you're going to build sales and revenue. You show a growth plan. You show how you're going to get from X to Y over a period of time. And ideally, you want to get to $10 million in revenue for any private equity investor to look at you. They start valuing your business at around 3 times the sales when you're doing $10 million, meaning that when you sell your company, your value is 3 times what your sales are. If you have $10 million in sales, you're worth $30 million on the low end. Once you hit 20 to 25 million, you're at 4 to 5 times sales, and anything over 50 million is greater. So that's the general idea. You aren't really focused on profits, you're focused on growth. So if private equity is looking at you, they want to get in on an investment early and then flip your company to L'Oreal, LVMH, Lauder. But first, you have to get started, and that means starting at 0. So let's talk about formulating the business plan. First, you identify the white space in the market. What's your reason for being? We were a new color brand focused on technology, customization, superior formulas, innovation, all made in Japan, and portability. Who's your customer? Ours was the early adopter, beauty obsessive, maybe fashion obsessive, shopping in luxury departments, but looking for the newest and the coolest. What is she buying? Why does she need this now? What is the path to the consumer? For us, the path was retail. We launched with Barney's and carved out a strategy that was focused on opening key luxury retailers plus select beauty retailers. The rule is that you can always start high and go low, but you can never start low and go high. So you look at what are your costs to start the business and then operate it over the next 1 to 3 years. Product, people, tester units that house the products, legal fees, accounting. What's your monthly G&A, your cost of running the business? How much money are you burning every month? What are the costs of opening a new business? If you're opening a new department store, what are the costs associated with that? So essentially, you create a budget. Then you prove that there's consumer interest. So in our case, we had a $200,000 Barney's order. So that was proof of concept for us. While I built the business plan based on the numbers, I had to trademark the name, negotiate supplier contracts, manufacturing terms, sales terms with Barney's, and then we also had to form an operating agreement, which is really the rules of the business, how many shares we had, what rights we had. And entering into that partnership is like entering into a marriage, so we had to take it seriously. All of this cost money, and so I spoke to friends who could help. Our lawyer was a friend of mine from high school who coincidentally just finished working on a beauty deal for the hairdresser Orbet. He agreed to draft all of the documents and any legal we needed until we raised the money to start the business. He registered our trademark in various countries, made sure we did everything the right way. He took a risk that paid off, and he's still our legal counsel today. Our accountant was another high school friend who made the same deal with me, also at a big firm, helped me close the monthly books, helped with investor updates that required detail on cash flows, tax compliance, international compliance, etc. So it was these friends that really helped me get the business off the ground and also gave us credibility. So when we met with potential investors, we could name these firms, these legal and accounting teams that were with these big firms, and that really helped. That brings us to raising money. So I knew we needed $1 million just to get the brand off the ground, and that would give us the ability to custom tool our customization system, buy product enough to last a year, and pay some staff to sell in stores. But where to begin? Raising capital is like going to Shark Tank every single day. In the first round, which is called the Friends and Family or seed round, you work on valuation. I think when we went out, we said we were worth $8 million because that's what Troy thought his intellectual property was worth. We probably pitched it 15 or 20 times at that valuation, and we're turned down every time. I could write a book on all the crazy investor pitch meetings we had. We once spent 3 hours in Chris Birch's office. Chris Birch is Tory Burch's ex-husband that funded her. And he told us that the only way we would sell lipstick was if we put it in a cryo chamber or treated it with a technology that helped it repel water. We had heard it all. When you pitch your plan, it's critical to listen to feedback and use valuable input to go back and revise your projections or test concepts. But throughout, you have to remain true to the vision. Investors told us they hated our logo, or it wouldn't work, or there's too much makeup out there, or their wife liked another brand better. I smiled and took the feedback. Eventually, it was my very best friend's husband who came in with the first official money. He set the valuation, which was lower than we anticipated, but completely fair. And after he was in, we ended up with an amazing group of individuals. 6 more guys, Wall Street guys from Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, a few independent investors that had money in big food brands like Sweet Green or fashion and tech companies. If we pitched this brand 40 times, we got 6 really enthusiastic and fairly hands-off investors who trusted us with their money. I negotiated and renegotiated the operating agreements, spent endless hours in meetings, on phone calls with lawyers, looking at cap tables, dilution, clauses in the operating agreement, and it was literally a week before launch, and we were done. We were finally done. We also did some creative thinking about how to get amazing beauty imagery to support the launch. So we reached out to a famous beauty photographer and we offered him Class B shares in our company. We did this for a few different types of services like that, and we used to joke that we could make a dime look like a dollar. Surratt launched in Barney's in October 2013, and we had all of the windows on Madison Avenue. We barely made our launch date. We literally spent the 2 weeks up until the launch hand packing out thousands of products into boxes. The best story I can tell about this is how we all pitched in at one point and had products in Deal, Brooklyn, and Jersey City. The Brooklyn pack-out crew was led by my best friend, Sheila, and she called in her whole family, her canasta friends, their housekeepers, whoever she could get to help. And one of my colleagues was there, and he came back completely confused. And he said, "I never saw such beautiful, well-dressed women, dripping in diamonds, speaking fluent Spanish, and working in the most efficient assembly line I've ever seen." He was blown away. So we launched the brand, and it was a huge hit out of the gate. We sold 3 months' worth of product in the first few weeks, and the reorders were coming in. Calls came in from every store that we dreamed of being in. We opened Liberty of London, then Mecca in Australia, Net-a-Porter, Sephora, and so on. The business required a lot of capital to grow. We prepaid all of our suppliers ahead of time, which left us strapped for cash because we had such limits on how many stores we can open the first year due to our exclusive with Barney's. We planned the Sephora opening, at which time I led another round of financing to support the launch in Sephora. We raised $2.3 million at a higher valuation because our sales had grown. During this time, I had my 4th child. We opened Sephora and a number of other stores, growing the business, growing my family. In fact, just a funny sidebar, Troy went to San Francisco to see Sephora for a touch base meeting the day that I was giving birth. He started the meeting by saying, "Helene's really sorry that she can't be here, but she's out having a baby today." And the buyer said, "What do you mean? I just got an email from her an hour ago." And that's how dedicated I was. I was sending emails while in labor. Sickness. Anyway, we had to launch new products to keep the brand relevant, which was a financial strain. But I used my creativity to negotiate with Sephora and had them prepay for their purchase orders 6 months ahead of time, something that they would never do for anyone. But that would allow us to fund all of our production that we needed to order more products, and they complied. So one of the key things I learned is that communication is very important. Honestly, you'll get a lot further than trying to paint a picture of perfection. When you're a young brand, you need support, and you just have to be honest. Fast forward, my days were long. I was waking up with emails from Japan, working a full day, coming home to homework and bath time and dinners, and then writing more emails to Japan before going to bed at some ridiculous hour, checking bank accounts, running payroll, taking meetings, and I was burning out. We were being called into private equity groups weekly. We knew that we needed a strategic partner, and I knew that I needed a break. The founder partnership was stressful at most times, balancing his creative mind with my business mind, and I had less time than I wanted to focus on my family. I was constantly worried about everything. When you take someone's money, you have to take it very seriously, and the pressure of not being able to deliver on promises to investors always loomed over me. It was time for me to let go of my external power and regain my authentic power and truly have some balance. The decision to take a strategic investment from private equity was difficult, but I knew it was necessary for my health and for the sake of the business. Hand-to-mouth financing was hard and growth was slowing because our pockets weren't deep enough to fuel it the way it needed to be. I was happy to hand off some of the responsibility, and we found a partner that put a sizable investment in. They offered our angel investors a return on their initial investments, and they took control of the board and elected people that we had chosen to run the day-to-day with as much or as little involvement as I wanted. I stepped down as CEO, and I intended to stay home more. We appointed two amazing women, one the former CEO of Shiseido, and one the former president of brands like NARS, Fresh, Philosophy, to run the day-to-day. What was meant to be my stepping back quickly turned into me continuing to be a critical part of the business. Both these women had asked me to stay in executive leadership for the brand as co-founder and head of strategy. My team is now made up of all women, with the exception of our VP of Finance. We launched our .com a few months ago, expanding into Neiman Marcus and Saks, and opened Harrods, along with expansion in Bluemercury and Space NK. I now shut my computer down when I get home from work, and I give my family the attention they deserve. I know what my priorities are and what my non-negotiables are. I'm not the first one, and certainly not the last, to work. I'm proud of what I've accomplished, spinning an artistic vision into a living, breathing business. Life ebbs and flows, as does business, but if you trust the journey, follow your instincts, and stay the course, success is imminent. Nothing is easy, but the key is to have as much fun along the way as possible. My advice would be to just start somewhere. Learn the industry you want to go into, immerse yourself in it, read a lot, listen to others. Every person I meet is a teacher, and although I have an enormous amount of knowledge about what I do, I still have so much to learn. I try to learn something new every day. The commute is the best time to do it. Podcasts, TED Talks, anything that educates and inspires me. Follow your impulses and inner guidance, and always be grateful for those around you who are there to support. We now live in a world that's been globalized. The world has become much smaller. Retail and wholesale industries are not as they were before, and many family businesses have had to adapt if they survived at all. Change is in the air, whether you're one who needs to go into the workforce or just someone who wants to. It shouldn't matter. There should be no judgment, no stigma, only support for one another. But what an incredible time to get out there. We're a digital-first world. Individuals can be their very own brands, and one has the ability to create her own brand and reach customers worldwide with a simple Squarespace or Shopify account. There are no limits. There is also enough success and abundance for everyone to enjoy. Some may get there more quickly than others, or their path may seem easier from the outside. But we're all in this together, and that is how we activate change in our thinking. When you light many candles from one flame, all of them burn brightly together. Do it, succeed, and then pass the gift on to others, and support the next generation in achieving their dreams. Thank you so much.
That was very, very inspiring. I don't think I know anybody like you. I wanted to say that she does take it in turns for anybody who's interested. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I know that we have the giveaway for whoever had registered for this event. So I want to just pick two winners. We have two gift bags here from Helene's company, Surratt. So I'm just going to call out some random numbers. I have our RSVP list here. Okay, here we go. Randomly generating a number 46. Norma Massery. All right. All right. And by the way, Norma's a makeup artist, right? I learned that today. I don't want to embarrass you, but a Pell graduate. Makeup artist.
We always did makeup artists.
All right. All right, who's next? Okay. Oh my God, it's our own Sherry Solomon.
Yay!
Awesome. Sherry works with us at SBH. That was not planned. Promise. So now I wanted to just introduce our second keynote speaker tonight, who is awesome, who was really amazing. I've had the opportunity to sit in on a call with Gina Levy-Abadi, and we were super impressed by her. I think you'll all really enjoy her story. I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about her. Gina was elected to Civil Court of the City of New York in 2019. Gina is currently sitting in Criminal Court, Kings County. She presides over arraignments, domestic violence, all-purpose parts, drinking while intoxicated, as well as mental Brooklyn treatment court. She has over 17 years of experience working as a principal law secretary to New York State Supreme Court Justice Donald Scott Kurtz from 2001. She's heard arguments on motions at drafted orders, conference trial-ready cases, facilitated settlements, researched case law, and drafted decisions. She participates in jury charge conferences and prepares charges for personal injury and malpractice actions. She received her JD from Brooklyn Law School and also graduated magna cum laude from Brooklyn College with a degree in philosophy. She is a graduate of Mag and David Elementary and High School. She's also a member of various professional legal groups, including Brooklyn Women's Bar Associate, Colombian Lawyers Association, and the Brooklyn Bar Association. She currently lives in Brooklyn with her husband and 3 children. Please welcome Gina Levy-Abadi.
I'm going to speak off the top of my head. When I first got this call to speak here today, I think they mentioned something about, showing women how to be professional and a lot of things that I don't consider myself. So I'm a lot more relaxed. Even when I'm in the courtroom, I'm not like the other judges. I say things I probably shouldn't say, and I do things I probably shouldn't do. But let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to Mag and David Elementary School. I actually did not get accepted to Mag and David High School because that's how poorly I did in elementary school. Every phone call my mother got was either to call to praise him how wonderful my sister was and how horrible I was. So there was really no hope in her. I mean, I shouldn't say that. She always thought I would amount to something, but we weren't really sure. I went to Sephardic High School for a year. I went to Mag and David High School, where I was introduced to the mock trial team, which is basically, it's like a pretend trial. And I loved it. Don't ask me how I did in math, how I did in English, but I loved this mock trial. So I did that, and I had to go to college at that point. I remember renegotiating some of my grades after I took them. I said, I don't really have, I have an 85. I really need to get to like an 88. Can you help me out? Can I write a paper? I got into Brooklyn College. I actually did very well there, to everybody's surprise. I ended up graduating with honors. I majored in philosophy because I knew I was going to go to law school. That's what I wanted to do. At the time, I had a boyfriend, which I had from elementary school, and I thought something like what many young adults would think, like, I'm going to marry him, my life is going to be wonderful, until we broke up. Then it wasn't so wonderful after 5 years. So I said, okay, I had the plan to go to law school. I said, now I'm in full force because there's no backup plan. And this is what I'm going to do. I had met my husband, the summer before I went into law school. So I got into law school. I sat there. I don't know if any of you, just coming from this community and going out into the world, realizing that I felt inferior. I sat there, and I remember these strangers' names. I remember because they said things to me. They said things to the class, and I said, oh my God. A guy raised his hand. Chris Fowler, I remember what his name was just because I was in shock. What do you do? I was the online editor for the New York Times, and I just looked like that, and I said, and I'm in law school, and you, answer you. Oh, well, I had this job running this company. I'm like, I hope they don't ask me what I do, because I do nothing. I went to college, and I don't have this kind of background, and I'm way too stupid. Like, maybe it's a mistake that I'm here, and I feel like a lot of women think that if something happens to you that's good, or you earn something, you say, maybe that was an accident. So I said, what am I doing in this school? So this woman raised her hand, Beverly Farrell. She says she was 36 years old. She had this whole other career before she started law school. And when she started speaking, and every time the teacher would ask a question, she would answer it about the hearings in 1960 with respect to Congress and seatbelts, and she would have things recited. I wasn't even alive then. I said, I am moving my seat. I went and I sat next to her a week in. I said, I'm Gina Batty. And she says, I was Gina Levy at the time. She says, I'm a born-again Christian. I said, I'm a Jew, a Syrian Jew from Brooklyn. And she says, well, what's that? I said, we're going to be friends, and we're going to sit. And we formed a study group. Nobody was like me there. I looked around. Nobody was like me. I had a guy named Yitzi, who was from Borough Park, but left his family. He decided he doesn't want to be religious or Jewish anymore or something like that. He left. And then I had another person. I mean, I just had a weird group of people. And I felt, personally, I had nothing to offer. But my mother made me, she's like, I'm going to cook for them. This was the plan. This is the Syrian plan. I'm gonna feed the group. And my friend Jason, whose father was a judge, when he raised his hand and said this too, I said, okay, my mother is an immigrant from Syria. I have nothing, like, I can't say my father's a judge. I can't say my mother's, it was just very intimidating. I made this group my group. And when we had study groups, my mother would make food and bring it. And they were all starving because everybody was on a budget. And I said, great, I wasn't really allowed to leave Brooklyn, as I said in my intro. She said you could go anywhere you want that's in Brooklyn. So that left one law school. It's funny because Beverly transferred out of the school because she had a 4.3. I didn't even know you can have a 4.3. And she says, I'm leaving. I said, what do you mean you're leaving? You can't leave me. She says, I'm leaving. Oddly enough, I don't think I believed in myself, but my GPA went up from there. I got a scholarship. I thought it was a mistake when I got in the mail. I said it was a scholarship. And it's really, and I got more of a scholarship the year after that. So when she left, it actually got better because I was doing everything by myself. And I don't think I believed in myself at that point. I had gotten married after my first year in law school. And my husband, we didn't even discuss it. And he said to me, so what are you going to do now? I said, what do you mean, what am I going to do now? He goes, now we're married. What are you going to do? I said, what do you mean? I'm going to go. I just finished my first year in law school. He says, you're going back? It wasn't even, like, I didn't even think that we were having this discussion. I said, what do you mean? I just finished the first year. He says, yeah, but now you're my wife. I said, oh. I said, that's great. And my mother said, just go along with whatever he's saying. I said, okay. I said, I have nothing to do now. Since I finished my first year of law school, I said, like, what am I going to do? We're not really having kids. I'm like, maybe I'll just go back. He's like, you don't have to. I said, I'll do it to pass time, I said. Because I didn't want to, at that point, I wasn't confident enough to assert myself, and it wasn't really, there's a difference, I think, that we need to make between a job and a career. At that time, I kind of tried to portray it as I'm just going to get a job, but it really is something more than that. There's a difference between going somewhere to earn money, to pay for whatever you have to pay, and making it your life's work, your passion, something that you're doing not just for money. I went back, I finished the 2 years, I sat for the bar exam. It was hard because I came home, I didn't have kids at the time, I came home, we finished studying maybe 1 o'clock at night, and me being me, if anybody knows me, I'm hopping on the train at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night, and my husband had heart failure. He says, okay, so you can't go on the train 1 o'clock at night. So we got a car service. Everybody was taking the trains. I'm the Jappy Jew in the car service going home. There was no Uber at the time. So I took car service home every night. I took the bar exam. And just speaking as a child, I think I have ADD. I can never sit still. Even when I'm on the bench, I'm standing half the time. I'm walking around and they're looking at me. I have a microphone on at the bench and I'm walking around. I graduated. I passed the bar exam on my first try, which I think when I finished the bar exam, I turned to everybody. They said, did you see this issue on the bar exam? I said, like labor law. They give you statistics. Labor law showed up 2 times in the last 40 exams. I didn't study any labor law. They all, did you see the labor law question? I said, what labor law question? I said, I failed this test. And I don't think I even had confidence in myself. I thought I knew the stuff, but then when I spoke to everybody, I said I didn't pass. I passed the first time, and they didn't pass. So, thank you. So I finished, and my husband says, well, now we're going to have kids. I said, great. I said, but if I'm going to start a job, I can't really do this. He said, what do you mean, you're going to work? I said, yeah, because I have nothing to do until we have a kid. It takes 9 months. It takes 9 months to have a kid. So I'll just do that in the meantime. He's like, okay, but you're going to quit when you have, I said, of course I'm going to quit when I have a kid. So I went to look for a job, which was not so easy. I graduated with honors. I got a writing award, but just to keep in mind, I got the Cali Award, which is the highest writing award you can get in the school. I don't even think I realized I got it until one of my interns says, oh, and you got the Cali. I said, I did? I didn't even know. I was so focused on getting my job and, you know, I was really focused on starting my family and doing what I needed to do. I wasn't paying attention to all these things that I probably should have enjoyed along the way. So I went on a job interview. And I told them, well, I only really want to work 9 to 5 as an attorney. And they just, where's this person from? And I told them up front because I thought I was being honest and I was, you know, coming forth with the truth and that they were going to hire me, or I realized as it was going along, nobody was going to hire me when I told them 9 to 5. I was offered a job at a law firm, and when they told me the amount of money I would be getting, I said, I can't work for that little money. At least I knew enough to know that I struggled this hard. I can't work for that amount. And I think just in general, it's okay to say, I'm worth more than this. Counter, come up with something else. But I had this job while I was working through law school. I went to, it's funny because one of my good friends graduated maybe number 3 in the law school, and she went for an interview somewhere and she didn't get the job. And I went for an interview there. This was during law school, and I got the job, and I ended up turning it down. And she said, you got that job? A lot of it was me and my personality and connecting with people, and it wasn't necessarily what I knew, even though I didn't realize I was able to do the job. So I got offered a job at the DA's office, and when they told me, they said, yeah, we're 9 to 5, except if we call you onto the Brooklyn Bridge at 2 o'clock in the morning to see a murder or whatever. I said, okay, that's not for me. My husband's not letting me go 2 o'clock in the morning. And a lot of it is what my husband was willing to put up with. I don't want to be on the bridge at 2 o'clock in the morning either, looking at a dead person. So that wasn't the job for me. I did a little bit of divorce law, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, because I interned. I was smart. I worked, my mock trial teacher, her daughter was a lawyer. And since I went on my honeymoon for an entire month, which I don't know what I was thinking after my first year, and I didn't get a job, I had nothing to put on my resume. I said, I heard she opened a law office. I said, I'm going to send her flowers and a tree, and I sent her this arrangement. It was, I think it was a tree with flowers sticking out of the soil. I don't know what I said, send something. She called me up to thank me. I said, you know what you could do for me? I said, I would love to come hang out. And I hung out in her office. I had something to put on my resume, even though I was only there part-time. At the end, I got a job. Some matrimonial wanted to hire me. I was tired of all the nasty fighting between husbands and wives. And to be honest, a lot of people from our community where, this is a side note, where the wives, should there be a divorce, they don't give you alimony anymore. That doesn't happen anymore. So if you're getting a divorce, you need to figure out how you're going to support yourself. And we had plenty of Syrian clients who had no idea. Well, I have a credit card and I charge all this. Well, you can't do that anymore. Well, what are you going to do to make a living? What do you mean? Like they had no way of making a living. I feel like it's very important to always have a way to make your own money. hopefully, God forbid, if it ever happens to anybody, but the courts are not giving you alimony anymore. They'll give you 2 years, 3 years, or they'll tell you to go back to school. And I've seen plenty of clients say, I can't go back to school. You have to. You have to figure out a way to support yourself. But that was always, being able to support yourself is always in the forefront of my mind, even when I see people and I speak with them. But anyway, I didn't want to do matrimonial. The people I was working for at the time gave my resume to someone. And I said, my judge, the judge I ended up working for, I told him I could take the work home. And I think Laura mentioned also, people ask me, is this a full-time job? It's a full-time job that's flexible somewhat. I was putting 40 hours in, but I was willing to write my decisions after I got home and my kids went to sleep. So when I said 9 to 5, the judge I ended up working for laughed. He says, this is government. We are 9 to 5. That's what we are. And he goes, you can't work past 5. Great. I did that job. I had 2 kids when I was in civil court. I had another kid when I was in Supreme Court. The turnaround time was quick. I went back to work fairly soon after I had the kids. And honestly, I didn't understand the concept of being able to get pregnant and have a kid and they can't fire you. Because I'm thinking our way. And I'm saying, if I have a baby, he's going to fire me. I can't do this. And he would laugh. He would say, I really can't fire you, but I could fire you the minute you have the kid. Afterward, he would joke. But he let me leave for Shabbat. My husband was brainwashed at that point. He knew that this was happening. He realized I wasn't quitting my job. And I said, I'm going to be home in time for the baby. And in the beginning, we got somebody to watch my kids. I moved, my mother has a 2-family house. I moved on top of my mother. And the truth is, I had the best food all the time. She would send it up. My kids were not missing anything. My father would say, I'm going to teach him how to read Hebrew. My 4-year-old was reading Hebrew at the time. This wouldn't have happened. If I was sitting home, I couldn't teach my kid to read Hebrew. If I was sitting there, I would probably lose patience also. But I had a whole team. I can't do it by myself. And I was asking her, who helped you? Because you can't do all this by yourself. You just can't. I had a team. My sister would take the kids to the doctor sometimes. My mom would cook and check on the kids and the babysitter and whatever was going on. My dad would teach the kids Hebrew. And then my husband slowly learned to do things around the house. So when he saw, we were paying for health insurance at the time. I got my health insurance through work. So when he saw that the health insurance was paying for itself, I was paying for the health insurance and it was a lot of money, plus I was getting a salary. He's like, okay, if this doesn't interfere with the kids, you could do this. So I stayed doing that, but the income was a big deal and the health insurance was really a bigger deal. I worked for 17 years for that judge, and then I volunteered for political organizations, and at some point I got the idea to run for judge, which presented me with the money problem. I mean, not as complicated as your money problem, because that's pretty complicated. The tiers of this is stuff I read about in people's papers, motions before me, but I had to come up. He says, I went to the leader of the Democratic Party, and I said, I really want to run for judge. He kept saying, it's not your time, it's not your time. Then he called me up one day. He says, okay, it's your time, you can run. I'm like, I don't know what to do. He goes, just come up with like 150 to 200 grand. I'm like, when? He's like, now. I don't have that kind of money. My husband's looking at me. He's like, I don't have $200,000 to give to you. Even if I did, I'm not giving it to you. So I had to raise it, which means I had to ask people for money. And I had to put together fundraisers. I would run to the city, some of my fundraisers, and I had to get a team also. So my good friend from elementary school, Batya, now she's Marcus, it's funny how you go to high school with all these people and you think just because they're Mag and David doesn't mean that they're not capable of doing everything. And I find that our community is more capable than other people in accomplishing so much. Someone else in the Democratic Party told me there's so many campaign finance rules. Your treasurer has to take a course, and then she has to open up an online account. You need an INS number. There were so many complicated things, and you know what? At the end of the day, you're going to need an accountant to close this out because she's not going to be able to understand it. She understood everything. She took the class. She did all my accounting, and we didn't need an accountant at then to close it out because she zeroed it out. She showed up to some of my fundraisers. Some of them I made $5,000. Some of them I made $15,000. My husband's friend, who happens to be the president of SBH, threw a fundraiser for me in Deal, which also raised money. But I had to ask people for money, and what are you getting in return? Nothing. You're really not getting anything in return. I can't throw a case your way. I can't do any of that. I'm going to go back. So I ran an election, but before I get to that, while I'm doing this, the woman that I sent the tree to, I came back to her. I passed my bar exam, and I came back to her. I said, I just want to thank you. What can I do to help you? You know, what can I do? I want to take you out for a nice dinner in the city, anywhere you want, because she mentored me. Her name is Deborah Kahn. She mentored me, and she said, I would love you to go back to Mag and David. I said, for what? I have no business there anymore. I'm done. She says, no, my mom, who was the mock trial coach, she left. I don't know what happened. They have no mock trial teacher. I said, so? She goes, go back and help them. So I went back. This is 17 years ago. I went back, and those kids, I said, I'm going to be your new mock trial teacher. They were so happy. I still speak to them now. One of them became an attorney, and I'm just talking out of that grade. I had one that became attorney, that interned for me, that appeared before me. He actually came before me, and I looked up, and I said, he goes, no, I'm the plaintiff. I said, what? You know, it just, I was so proud of him. But he wasn't the only one. I've had countless, I want to differentiate between the men and the women. I've had countless men that have graduated law school, that have written letters of recommendation to college, to law school, who have interned for me. There have been many years where I've said I'm going to quit. I have quit, and they said, no, you can't. I said, what do you mean I do quit? They said, you can't quit. You're still the coach. And they would come to my house at night. And if they got into a car accident, they would call me, Gina, what do I do? Or anything law-related, I would be their go-to person. I have the prospect of my first female going to law school that I've personally mentored. She's not there yet. She actually called me up the other day. She's dating somebody, and she says she doesn't know if she should go. And I said, all right, you're coming to work with me. You're coming to work with me next week, and I'm going to sit you up on the bench, and I'm going to show you that you could do this. But my success rate has not really been with the women, unfortunately. But I hope she'll be my first. But it's possible to go through law school. We had women who were pregnant and went through law school. I ran my election. I ran around like a lunatic. My kids ran around with me because when I gave out, I was on the subway at 5 o'clock in the morning. I made my mother come with me, and they would yell at me. I had to run in Coney Island, which, frankly, is the neighborhood demographics don't look like me. So when I show up, and I went to hang one of my posters, I brought one with me. I just went home and grabbed one out. First thing, when I showed them this picture, they said, well, where is she? Why doesn't she come down here herself to ask for our votes? I know, this is me. I said, sir, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, and this is what I look like at 6 o'clock in the morning. And they would compare the picture. Oh, okay. And everyone would get mad. Where is she? I'm like, no, it's me. I had a campaign manager. I had a team. I had posters I would hang up. They told me I had to go into neighborhoods. I actually had a bodyguard at one point because I was going into neighborhoods. There was a fight that broke out, and I'm oblivious. I didn't even know people were throwing bottles. I had a wino on the street. She was a drug addict. She was a drug addict. She dressed as a mermaid, and every morning, hey Gina, I'm like, hi. And this was my neighborhood. I went to the housing projects. I was really disturbed by some of the things I saw, and I knew inevitably I was going to say the wrong thing because of how sheltered I've been, and how fortunate, honestly, I've been. So I went around. I got a lot of, "What are you doing in my neighborhood? Are you here just for our votes? Why should I vote for you?" I said, "Let's start with, where's my opponent? She's not here." And I know what he meant. He meant because I'm white and I'm here, and it was an all-black neighborhood. But I said, because I care, and I'm here, and nobody else is here. Nobody else is coming here, but I'm coming here to ask for your vote. I was humble. I was humbled by this whole experience because I didn't know if I was going to win. I had help. It's funny because us Syrians, we help each other the way we know how. So my friend Miriam and my friend Sherry, who are here, they said, "You can't go looking like this. Let me do your makeup. Let me do your hair. Let me help. This is what you have to do. This is the angle you have to take." So I had my help in my own ways. And when people wouldn't take my flyers, I brought my kids. I used my kids. I sent my 10-year-old out, who's the cutest, and I said, "David, go give them papers because they're telling me to go take a hike." So, well, that's not really the words they used. But they would curse me out because I'm a Democrat. I ran as a Democrat, and I had a primary. It was really a little more complicated than I'm making it, but I sent my son out. I said, "David, go give them the papers. Vote for my mommy." He would give them, "Yes, honey, yes, I'll vote for whoever you want." And he was cute, and it worked. And I sent my daughter out. I sent my son out. And I went to concerts in the park. I went everywhere you could go. And on election night, I was still nervous. We sat there. I won, I think it was 72 to 76% of the votes. I won. And I was elected. I was sworn in. And all my 18 years is in civil court. I get a phone call the day, I think, after Christmas. Say, yeah, we need judges in criminal court, so we're sending you there. I'm like, "Oh, you got the wrong person. I can't go to criminal court because I can't be with the criminals in criminal court." And it's a very Syrian thing to say in a way. But I didn't know anything about criminal court, and I said, "I really don't want to know anything about criminal court. I'd like to have a foreclosure case. I'd like to have a car accident case. Give me something that give me people that don't pay their credit cards." I said, I'm like, I would be so good there. And I really was, at that point, like I don't want to say I'm confident. I was great at my job. I was great at my job. I heard arguments on motions. I wrote decisions. I could spot the BS, fairly quickly into it. And I said, "Well, that's not true." And I would call everybody out. I have all the confidence in the world. Now you're going to send me to criminal court where I know nothing. They sent me to a seminar for 3 days. I sat there. I had no idea what was going on. And then they put me there. They said, "You could watch somebody and then you go." If I tell you, I sat there at the podium, and even when they told all rise, I got up. They go, "No, not you." And I didn't even know what to do. I said, "They don't have to stand up." She said, "No, they do." They don't. It's just me. They would call me Judge, and I say, "Call me Gina." And and they said, "But we're not allowed to call you Gina." And the whole thing was so weird to me. I wasn't that power trip kind of person. Even when I'm a judge now, I'm not like that. And I don't know if it's a good thing or if it's a bad thing, that I don't know how to be a boss, so to speak. I'm friendlier with everybody than I should be. And I think that's something I have to navigate, to kind of be a little bossy. But when women are bossy, we're bitchy too. So that's what they say, "Oh, look at her." But if a man asserts himself, he's not bitchy, he's being assertive. So there's plenty of that going on everywhere I go, where the men do things and it's perceived a certain way, and the women do things and it's perceived a certain way. I'm very aware of stereotypes for Jewish people also, and unfortunately, it's a difficult thing being an Orthodox Jew in this seat as well. I'm a member also of, I don't just stick to Jewish organizations, I'm a member of the Catholic Lawyers, I'm a member of, the Colombian Lawyers is an Italian organization which didn't have any Jewish members until some time ago. My judge was the first Jewish member. I can't just stick with my people when I'm at work. I have to talk to everybody. I have to be inclusive of everybody. And networking, and when I'm going to a dinner and somebody, I'll say, oh, I'll take a bunch of vegetables or whatever it is I'm eating, and when people get drunk, they laugh at you. So they say, oh, what are you, kosher, what are you, Jewish? And things come out of their mouth that you don't really forget. For me, I haven't forgotten. When the people have a few drinks that you work with and things that they say, specifically with you, your religion, you have to learn to be a little bit more than what the public is gonna, be a little bit more for yourself, for the community. So I know I have to present myself a certain way. And I know that's gonna reflect on Jewish women, it's gonna reflect on Syrian Jewish women. There's one other person that I know that started doing this. She went to school when she was, I think, 37 years old. She went to law school, maybe 40 years old, Marguerite Dweck. So she started school later on in her life. And I admire that because I don't think I could do this when I'm 40. There are a lot of job opportunities I was going to discuss also in the court system, but I don't think we're going to have time to do that today. But I'm happy to talk about it. There are jobs where you don't need to have, all you need is a GED and a high school diploma. Obviously, my job is a little bit different. You need to have been an attorney and been an attorney for 10 years to run for judge. The benefits working for the government are fabulous. You get a pension, which means you get a percentage of your salary for the rest of your life. I could retire at 55 and get a percentage of my salary for the rest of my life. I don't have to work another day after that. Have to. I want to, because again, it's not a job, it's a career. I get up and I get so excited to go to work. My husband used to have a pillow company, and he used to get up and stress. He said, oh, I have to pay my workers today, and this guy bounced a check on me, and I would just smile. He said, what are you so happy about? I get to go to work today. And every day I went I wanted to go. Even now, I want to go. A third of the year I work nights. I work from 5 to 1 o'clock in the morning. I see things all the time, and somebody asked me, it's funny because I still am from this community, and I still am who I am, and my thought process is not exactly the way everybody else's thought process was. I was telling somebody in the room about one of my cases where I see people I know sometimes. I didn't mention this person's name, but at some point somebody said, oh, you didn't tell me you arraigned so-and-so. I said, well, I'm not going to advertise that the person was arrested. I had an Israeli group before me with one guy, and he had stabbed his friend. So I wasn't thinking that he stabbed him with a knife, because I'm thinking, it's one of our people. What is he going to stab him with a knife? And he goes, and Your Honor, he stabbed him with a knife, and no, he said he stabbed him. And these words came out of my mouth. I said, what did he stab him with? And he's a knife. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know. He's like, what do you mean, what did he stab him with? I thought maybe I had a case before that where he stabbed him with the back of a comb. Or a pen. I'm not thinking that my people are stabbing each other with a knife. And it's really, it's the way I was brought up. I ask stupid questions all the time because I don't understand. And I say things I shouldn't say, like, everything you're saying makes no sense. I'm like, take off your lawyer hat. I said, be a regular person. Does anything you're saying make sense? And they just look at me. They're like, they're legalese and they whatever. I have a different way of doing things. It's not the way everybody else does things, but it works for me. And I keep myself entertained all the time. I laugh at myself. I ordered my own transcript the other day. I said, because this is really funny. And I said, I want to order this to have just to see what I did. The bail laws are changing in January. We're not going to be able to set bail. I don't know if all of you vote, but you voted, somebody voted people in. Or if you didn't vote, you really did vote because not voting is the same thing. They voted people in that decided that we don't need to set bail for everything from a Class E felony on down to a misdemeanor. So, with a few exceptions, which I'm not going to get into. So if they're not setting bail come January 1st. So when they show up in December 10th, they said, are you setting bail? We're not asking for bail, and you shouldn't set bail. I said, that's starting in January. They said, yeah, but you should start doing this now. I told my officer, I said, please make everybody copies of the calendar. Explain to these people it's December, it's not January. And he just looks at me. I could say whatever, I don't want to say I could say whatever I want, but I'm in control of my courtroom, I'm in control of my offices, I have people working for me now, writing my decisions. So it's an empowering position. It's a position where I still want to help people. I'm still coaching Mag and David. Both my kids have to be on the mock trial team because I'm the coach. They don't have a choice. And I think that it makes me a happier mom. It makes me a more able mom, that I get this break where I go to work and I interact with people intellectually, and then I come back and, you know, I am making kibbeh, because my mother looks at it, she's like, did you buy it? Why did you buy it? You can make it. So I have to make my own kibbeh, or she's going to find out. And I do all those things. I'm on top of their schoolwork, and it's really, they're wrapping me up. It's really, no, it's fine. If you want to know anything about jobs where you don't need, all you need is a high school diploma, I'm happy to talk to you. If you want to know about jobs where you can, when you finish college or you want to go to law school, I'm happy to talk to you about that also. Thank you.
I'm blown away. Only we didn't forget you. I said both of you were so amazing and inspiring, and such different styles, and so impressive. Both of you, really. Big round of applause. It's so amazing.
I did want to mention that there is information in the front on some of the careers that Gina had mentioned in government, if anybody's interested. I now want to turn it over to our workshop presenters. I want them to please come up here and quickly introduce themselves and what they're going to be discussing in their groups. I'm not sure if we'll have time for 2 sessions, but we could definitely do one, and I'll make sure that we get the maximum amount of time. So please choose your sessions wisely. I think they're all so impressive, and I really hope everybody gets benefit from it. So if you guys can please come up to quickly introduce yourselves, and then take it from there.
Hi everybody, I'm Gita Kaplan. I'm an attorney. I don't do what Gina does. I work in-house for a company called Mamie Brothers. I saw Marlene here. Hi. There you are. I am an attorney, but I'm also a mother. I'm also a wife. I'm also a cook, a housekeeper. I'm a volunteer. I'm a runner. And come to my session so I could tell you how to do it all and balance it all and still be happy every day.
Hello, my name is Rena Katan-Cohen, and I'm here to talk about your elevator pitch. I actually don't believe in a traditional elevator pitch, so I'm not giving a session on that. But if you want to learn how to tell your story in a clear, fun way that you can use on many different platforms, please feel free to stop by. My poster is the only one that is still alive and standing, so it's definitely meant to be. I work at an organization called UJA Federation. It's a philanthropy where we raise over $200 million a year. There are colleagues in the building who raise the funds, and I get to be on the fund side allocating the funds to organizations like SBH. So if you want to learn more about that as well, please join me.
Hi, I'm Laura Dweck. I am the president at Shore Magic, and I have a career I've had a career in the fashion industry for many years. Some of you may recognize me from Shark Tank. I was on the show in 2017. Also on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. I ran a company with my husband, Michael, called Basic Outfitters, and worked for companies like Sam Edelman and Onia. And I have a lot of experience both from the employee and employer side of things. So my session is discussing money, and I'm going to be talking about how to negotiate a salary, how to approach risk management when starting a business, and how to not be intimidated by all things financial when it comes to your business. So if you want to learn anything about money, come to my session over there.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel. I'm a learning and development specialist, which means that I get to do things like this all day for my job, providing different trainings and resources for people to be more successful in their careers. And so you come to my session, you hear some of the tips and tricks that we give people around how to communicate effectively and be professional in the workplace.
Hi everybody.
Hi.
My name is Geeta, formerly Sultan, now Kaplan. First I'll give a little bit about my history, and then I'll go into some tips and tricks for maintaining a work-life balance. So I am a deal girl. I went to Hillel. After that I went to college at Rutgers and to NYU Law School. I got married in between college and law school to my husband, who I was dating in high school. I had my first child when I was 25 after I graduated from law school. I worked at a law firm called Proskauer, which is a big law firm in the city, when I was pregnant with my first child. And after that I moved to Deal. All the while I have so many crazy stories to tell about being a lawyer and being a mother. And the truth of the matter is, it's not always easy to do both. When I was at Proskauer, for example, I mentioned this in my marketing video, but I had one night where I was pregnant and closing a deal to buy the Chicago Cubs and Wrigley Field, and I had to sleep on my office floor on my jacket. And my husband brought me breakfast in the morning and said, you can't do this anymore. That was the point that we moved to Deal, and I said I was going to slow down. I took 8 months off, and I decided that watching Desperate Housewives while my son napped wasn't quite my cup of tea, and it was time to go back to work. At the time, people would tell me that there's no such thing as being a lawyer and working part-time, working with a flexible schedule, but I said, look, I wanted to be a lawyer. I loved reading, I loved writing. My mom will tell you that I love fighting with people. But I decided that I was going to make it happen. I started working at a video game company called Majesco Entertainment when my first son was about 8 months old, and I worked there for 4 years. The general counsel of the company was my cousin Adam. You could tell that I mentioned him in my speech. I convinced him to hire me. I told him, you have to hire me. I'm your family, but I won't be offended if I'm bad and you have to fire me. And he said, okay, as long as I can fire you, then let's give it a go. And we did, and I worked 3 days in the office and 2 days from home. I calculated it today. I took my first paycheck was 17% of what I was making when I was working at my law firm in the city. I took a huge pay cut to go back to work on a flexible schedule. And while I was there, I had my daughter. I brought her into the office when she was 12 weeks old for a closing, something I never would have done at my old law firm, but I felt that I was able to be more myself when I was working in a company that had more of a work-life balance and flexibility. After 4 years, it was so much fun. I would hang out with video game testers. I'd be playing Zumba in the office. It was too much fun, and the company went out of business, so I had to find another job. What did I do? I called my friend and neighbor Shiri, who I gave my resume to, and a few weeks later I got a call from somebody at Mamie Brothers saying I had an opening for a general counsel, which is the head lawyer in the company. Did I want to come in for an interview? I was not into it at all. I said, I'm not going back to the city. I live in Jersey. How am I going to get there? What am I going to do with my kids? I was pregnant at the time with my third kid. And I said, let me go see what it's all about. I went to the interview. I told them, look, I'm pregnant. Right now I work 3 days in the office, 2 from home. I have to keep the same schedule. I want a raise. And I'll always answer to you. I'll always be responsive, but my family comes first.
It's like assertive, polite but firm, almost. Like you don't want to overstep any boundaries, but you don't want to you want to let people step all over you.
Yeah, for me it means like giving a price that might be a high price, but it's the price that I'm worth, and I don't apologize for it. And expenses, like this is my price.
Yeah, showing the person like this is what I'm coming with. This is, I know my stuff. What else?
Hi, how are you? Good morning. Just following up on making sure you're
Yeah, the way that we speak at work should be different than the way that we speak to our friends. There's just a certain way we speak specifically in our community that it just doesn't come across the same way in the workplace, from filler words to the slang words. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to say or casita or something like that, but it doesn't come across. So it's thinking about what are we saying? Are we coming in with our point? Knowing what we want to say, preparing beforehand, making sure we're firm but not pushing too hard. So it starts with the things that we're saying. Are they appropriate for the workplace? But it's not the full part of the picture. There's actually 3 parts to communication. There is what we say, so the content, the words that we use. There's how we say it, so our tone, our inflection, our pace. And then there's the visual, or what other people are seeing. So our body language, our gestures, our facial expressions. Out of those 3 components, what do you think makes up the most for the message that other people are actually receiving from us?
I think the visual.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But I think tone is very important, how you say it.
But isn't tone part of the visual?
So tone is part of how we say it, and the visual is like your facial expressions, your body language.
I think visual.
The second you walk into a room, you're not talking. You're just
being
showing
summed
your
up.
face
Yeah.
right away. Like that's the first impression someone's getting.
And so people don't always realize that actually 93% of our message is based on what people are seeing and the way that we say it, what they're hearing, not the words. And we spend so much time thinking about, okay, what is the perfect message? And that's super important, but how are we coming across? And so it's actually the highest 55%, that's the visual. And so those are the little things to think about. We have a certain message that we want to give off, but is our body language, our tone, all that, is it aligning? Because if it's not, actually, like you said, they're going to judge you based on what they see. And if it's a very important way that people can judge what your emotions are, what your attitude is, they're totally going to figure out they have a negative or positive attitude based on what they see and how they hear. So are our messages aligning? And when we think about if our messages are aligning, we want to say, what is our body saying? So we're going to take a couple of minutes and think about positive and negative body language.
Knowing your worth is really important. So while it is important to your point, to understand where the range falls, I think it's also important to not lower your expectations of what you can achieve, because that's whatever ceiling you put on yourself is what the ceiling is going to be, and it will dictate your reality. So if I'm describing a dream job position, like shoot for the moon and then work in baby steps to get there. And like I said, as from the basic operators experience, you are your only advocate. So don't go into things expecting to work hard and then just get people coming and telling you, yeah, you're going to get a raise and you're going to get your neck. You're so great. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to prove your worth. You have to show your worth, and be able to substantiate that worth with metrics, with numbers, with examples. So always come in super prepared. And I would say learn the art of negotiation. So like I said earlier, be willing to walk away if it's something that you're super confident that you are the right person for the position, and be able to, know that that's something that they need you for, then you're willing to walk away. But also at the same time, be open to compromise. So things may not land exactly in your court. There are budgets, there are things that people consider, but always understand that there's compromise involved in things and be open to that. Yes?
Within the art of negotiation, do you think you're better off throwing out the number first or waiting for them to throw?
Usually, it depends on the situation. Usually waiting for them to throw out the number will set the tone for where they are. But it could go a few different ways. It depends on the scenario, really. I think when the swimwear example, I waited for them to throw out the number. It was way lower than what I was expecting. But then I threw out a way higher number, and we met somewhere in the middle. So, and you can always manage it that way. But the number that I threw out that was way higher was also substantiated because I said, you're going to need to hire someone else whose minimum salary is going to be X, and combined with my salary, that's what it's going to equal. So that was like a way to negotiate it for me. Yeah.
An exact example, like in terms of how you advocated for yourself, like an exact scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I think that swimwear example was one they were really lowballing me.
What do you say about yourself to advocate?
So I already had proof of concept, meaning I worked really hard at a lower end salary to get their new line launched, to show them that I understood the brand. I designed a bestseller for them that was on the cover of Harper's Bazaar and every major publication. They understood how well I knew their brand. The sales were there. And then bringing my background in merchandising and being able to say I can bring a whole different side to design that a designer may not bring because I have a background in merchandising. I understand costs, I understand margins, I understand planning, production, and this is what I'm going to bring to the men's line. Even though you've been doing men's for so long, it was purely focused on design. I'm going to bring this whole other side and new lens to it. And that was,
I mean, I was secretary, but I went to FIT, so my merchandising, my production management, all of that was where I thought I would end up. But I went to public school and I felt very connected to Sephardic, culture, being that I am Egyptian, and that's what I was raised. As I got this position, they were like, do what you need to do with it. It's you're sending bills. We moved into a new location. I took this program director job and completely transformed the shul. We have about 10 events a year, bringing singles together and families together and building what we now have a very vibrant 200-person synagogue downtown. I'm completely shy. I don't like public speaking, but I really built the one-on-one relationships with people. And I grew as a person so much. I've been there 8 years now, continue to learn, continue to meet amazing people. I feel like I can sit in this room and I know a lot of women who really grew so much I grew so much in my life, listening to them speak, and I don't know, that's my 20-second pitch. Beautiful. But I'm very shy, so.
Can we hear any positive comments specifically?
What's your name, Erica? Erica Roller. Oh, okay, good.
You were very authentic. You spoke from the heart. It instantly made a connection. I felt that you were so real. Very approachable. You engendered trust right away. I felt it. So that was
I completely agree. Okay, let's do another. Thank you so much. It's not easy to be the first, so it's not easy to pitch. So let's hear it. All right.
Nancy. Hi everyone, I'm Nancy. I don't know what I'm pitching.
Anything,
but basically, okay, so I have a business, but
can you try this?
Should I read this? Okay, yeah. So this has nothing really to do with my business, but it's kind of how I started. So once upon a time, I wanted and needed money to basically be a teenager in the Syrian community. Every day I wanted to be social, but my parents wouldn't fund me to get a manicure and go to Nobu. One day, my teacher started the Pathfinders Committee at my high school. Because of that, I accepted a $20 a night job after school, writing Butterfinger on a popsicle stick at Urban Pops. Because of that, I began to have this drive to always want to work and make money and never stop at that. Until finally, I accepted a part-time job at Urban Pops in the summer after working at Camp David, and met so many people that didn't even know who I was but loved my personality. I networked everywhere just by saying, tip me, on a $4 pop. By selling ices, everyone just thought maybe I could sell clothing at a wholesale company on 38th and Broadway. 2 days a week during high school, I started working at Gina Group for free. I interned, I sold, I got the most amazing, practice just by sitting in the showroom watching the main salesman sell to Walmart, Target, really the biggest places. And because I was getting nothing, I learned a lot, but because I was not making any money, I quit. And then I was just a salesman at that point. But I was still in high school, and I didn't know what to do, and I wanted to make more money, so I started working part-time with my cousin Stacy Ayash, interior design, while I was in school. So because I was in school, being in Flatbush, if any of you went there, you know it's the toughest thing to do. Studying, homework, being social in our community, and working, and doing homework. Everything was just so much, I couldn't do any of it. But I wanted to go to Nobu and get a manicure, so I worked. So because of that, I was working and working and working. And at 15 years old, I had a job. And I was going to school, and then college came along, and everyone's getting into colleges and everything. And I, as me, wanted to get out of our little bubble and go to a college not in Brooklyn, or not be in that community, because of just the TV shows I was watching, and I wanted to be going to college and get that real college experience. But my mom said, "You're not going away to college." My dad said, "You're not going away to college." So because I didn't want to do my homework and study and write essays and do all of that, but still be at home and not get that college experience, I chose not to go to college, and I was working full-time for Stacy Ayash. But during the high school time, like sophomore, junior, and senior year, I was working part-time with Stacy, so I was working part-time at I Found Secret, part-time at NYC Sample Centers, part-time at jewelry stores, part-time at Urban Pops, part-time at Kit, part-time at everything.
And I look back on it, and 2019, 5 years later, and I couldn't believe how much of my goal list I actually achieved. And so I think once you put it down and make it concrete, it requires you to visualize where you want to be, and it's easier to get there. Okay. Number 11, swallow your pride. So understand that the prize job comes only through hard work and time. So take a job that's going to help you get to the final goal, even if it's not the most glamorous, the well-paying job, or the fun one. So like I said, I think it was like a 500% pay cut when I came from my New York job to my New Jersey job. Eventually I built myself back up, and I have the job that I always dreamed of, but it took a lot of time and energy and grit. Late nights in the office at a job I hated, but I was making money and I was able to put it on my resume. Non-late nights at a job I loved, but I was basically working to pay my gas to get there. And at the end of the day, if it gets you to where you are, if there's a purpose for taking that job, then do it. Just keep your eye on the prize. Okay, number 12. Do something you love with people you love. So choose a career in a place of employment that will make you happy to go to work each day. So when I first had my first job as a lawyer, I don't even want to say it because I'm still scared of the people that I worked with. I hated it. I hated everybody I worked with, and I was so tired. I was married, newly married at the time. I eventually got pregnant with my son at the time, and I felt that my time wasn't valued. I remember telling my husband, I got an email that I needed to go into the office on one of my days off. What was it? It was Martin Luther King Day, and I got so angry, and I said, "I'm not going in, it's Martin Luther King Day." And my husband said to me, like, are we celebrating Martin Luther King Day? Like, what's your plan for today? And I was like, no, I believe in freedom, I don't have any. So I just make sure, and as time went on, I selected jobs that I was able to like more, to appreciate the people I worked with. The work I was doing was more real and valuable and not busy work or grunt work. So I think it's important, while you want to swallow your pride and take the job that gets you to the goal, eventually try to find a long-term place where you are respected, where your work is respected, and where you love what you do. Because it makes all the difference when you wake up in the morning and you're leaving your kids, it better be for something good. Okay, so number 13, find a mentor. So I had a mentor. It was a man. I still don't have a woman mentor, and so I encourage everybody, talk to Propel, talk to SBH. These people know what they're doing, they can guide you. There's people who have been through it. I didn't have someone who's been through it, who's necessarily had a job and had a career and had a family, and I kind of navigated it in my own way, but having people who pave the path for you makes it all the more easy to do it yourself. Okay. Number 14, be flexible about where you work. Think about like the strangest place you can imagine someone to work, and I have worked there. I take conference calls on the floor of my walk-in closet with my door closed and my kids sticking washcloths under the door because they can't get in, saying, "Do you think she wants the purple one? Let's put the pink one. Should we wet it? No, don't wet it." You know, and so that's like it. But no one knows because there's such a thing as a mute button and no one can hear you. And I once sent like a very long email full of directions and attachments. Where did I do it from? I was sitting on the floor of the Cheesequake parking lot outside where the bus drops you off. I didn't have time to get to my car because I needed to do it right away. I just sat down, pulled out my laptop, and the cars are whizzing by. I'm on a call with somebody and sending an email.
Yeah, so sometimes people like to use like mnemonics when somebody's saying their name and make some type of connection. And yeah, so sometimes like when somebody's saying their name and you know you're bad with names, they like to make a connection automatically, so that way you try to remember it. Or, okay, so hi, my name is Rachel. Say hi, Rachel, nice to meet you. Like, the more you repeat it,
I try. It doesn't work. I usually understand the wrong name. What about getting someone to tell them? Let's say I just met you and I forgot your name. How do I get it so that I can ask you to sort of repeat your name to me without being rude?
well, sometimes it's like, can you like write your email address down for me, or the phone, like, oh, can you save your phone?
Okay.
Something like that. Sometimes you just have to ask the person, sorry, I'm really bad with names. Could you remind me?
Okay, because I find myself apologizing all the time.
You're not the only one.
It's very bad. It's horrible.
I knew I was coming to your thing and like, sorry, returning, like, sorry.
But sometimes just being honest about that makes a difference. So like, oh, sorry, like a quick rabbit, like you remind me, rather than, oh, what was your name again? So it's all about not only what we say, but how we go about it. Are we going about it in a tactful way, or just like I wasn't listening to it? Any other questions so far? So now you're probably thinking, okay, how do I take these things, bring it back to whatever my situation is? And so while all the different tips that we spoke about are super important, like we started off, there's no one size fits all. Every organization is going to be different. Some are going to be more professional and need more professional emails versus less. Every person is different. Some people are going to want to talk in person. Some people are going to want email. Some people are going to want to get down to business right away. Some are going to want you to be more friendly and talk about their weekend. And so a huge part of being a good communicator is actually just observing what are people doing around you, what do people like and don't like, and trying to adjust our approach as best as possible. So now I want to give you guys a few minutes to actually practice.
If I don't have all of my numbers studied and a note, but I needed to understand them, I couldn't just memorize, right? And so we spent so much time like creating flashcards and questions and going through our business, and it was the best business boot camp we ever did because we understood our business inside out because we had to be ready for anything. And I would say like that taught me so much about like just understanding the ins and outs of my business and really understanding why we did things and questioning things that we weren't questioning before we had to answer these questions. So yeah, I think that's a huge. We had 2 offers, but we didn't end up making a deal. Yeah. So I wanted to ask if anyone had any questions on the financial front of things, like understanding metrics and all of that. Is that something you guys like are familiar with? Do you normally shy away from it?